Hello everybody and welcome to this JavaScript tutorial. My name is Amarji and I'll be the one who will take care for this complete JavaScript walkthrough. So friends, welcome you all and I'm very much excited to take this journey ahead with all of you. So we're going to talk about the topic which is known as called JavaScript. So let's discuss about our agenda. So we have an agenda like why JavaScript, what is JavaScript, JavaScript Variable, JavaScript Operators, Loops, and Functions, and JavaScript Objects, Arrays, and you talk about Quiz and App. So this is what exactly we have an agenda to discuss in brief about what is a JavaScript. So friends, we know it very well that JavaScript is one of the most popular scripting language available. It is there in market from last more than 2 decades and has created a popularity especially for those who are the UI developers. So today this JavaScript will help you to understand where exactly you can utilize JavaScript in which manner. So let's get started. So why JavaScript? So this first question which there is in everybody's mind, if you are a typical database developer, if you are a backend developer, because today market has changed a lot ever since this, I would say, the e-commerce industry, or I would say the industry like in social app or social networking industry, which is basically growing. So the necessity of creating the better user experience has also improved. So the first question is, does JavaScript play an essential or vital role to create such kind of application? Answer is yes. So we say, why JavaScript? So we say that JavaScript is one of the most popular language in the world, and that gives the first choice for the programming, especially for the web-based development. But here there is a small change. Earlier we used to talk about JavaScript is designed only for those who are front-end users, but today JavaScript has spreaded its wings towards creating an application which can also work and serve the server-side applications too. So I can give you one choice which is called Node.js, which is one of the very popular tool is there in market, which is purely based on JavaScript and is using all the JavaScript capacity to develop the server-side applications too. So we can say in today's modern web browser, okay, where you do not need any environment setup, you just get started with the JavaScript because every single browser comes with its own built-in JavaScript library. So what JavaScript can help you? So JavaScript can help you to translate or to transform a typical static applications or static web page to the dynamic web pages, so that you can offer all sort of effectiveness which can create a better user experience for the end user. You can enable with the help of JavaScript. So we say the JavaScript language has now extended, as I said earlier, to the mobile-based application development, desktop-based applications development, as well as for the game-based development. So JavaScript is now everywhere. So there was a time, long time back, when the JavaScript was considered only for the web-based browsers, where the developers can only create some dynamic effects through the menus and some alert boxes and all. But now the JavaScript reaches beyond that. Now, again, there's another question like, why exactly? So due to this high demand and the tons and tons of career opportunities, the JavaScript demand as a career development has grown like anything. Now, what is JavaScript? Here, I would like to say the JavaScript is basically a typical dynamic cross, or I'll say computer programming language, and it is also known as called object-based language. So here it is typically designed for developing a lightweight applications development, which is suited for all different type of web-based applications. So with the JavaScript, it allows the users to interact with your web application more closely and give more dynamic and responsive applications. So as I said now, responsive application which is designed not only for the web but also for variety of user interfaces. So it is typically an interpreted language. Okay, it is not a typical language which is get compiled like in C++ and then get converted to the machine language. It's not like that. It is the one which is known for interpreted programming language, and contains all object-oriented capabilities, but still we say it is not an object-oriented language, it is so-called object-based language. Now here we talk about, let's code our first JavaScript program. So how to basically start working with the first JavaScript program. So here I start with my first program of the JavaScript. So here I'm going to create the new JavaScript program with new folder. I'm going to create it. I'm saying open, create a new folder anywhere, wherever you want. So in my documents, I'm going to create a new folder called JavaScript demos, and this folder I will open it up my VS Code editor. Now this VS Code editor is a fantastic choice for those who are front-end developers, those who want to use an IDE which can give out-of-the-box features with less resources utilized. So this VS Code editor is free to download. You can just search in Google VS Code editor and you're going to get option. It considered almost in 50 MB in size, and that's it. So here I'm going to create our very first JavaScript program. I'm going to give the name called welcome.html. Now here in my welcome.html, I will start with my typical HTML tags with a body, my body tag. I can also have the head tag. So head and body tag. Now the first thing when you write a JavaScript code, you always start with the first tag, that is known as called script. So you say script. Now you need to understand, earlier days when we were working on a lower version of browsers and the lower version of HTML, which is called HTML 4.0. So in that case, we had to say the language equal to JavaScript. But since we are already working on HTML5, which is the current version, and it's been there in market from last almost 7 to 8 years. So most of the browsers are now compatible with HTML5. So you really don't need to write the language equal to JavaScript. So you just need to write a script. That's it. So within this script, you can just write a simple message called document.write. You can see the suggestions automatically appears because of VS Code editor. And we are saying hello world. And that's it. So what it does, it basically print the data. It print the data over your browser console, over your browser window. So this document.write will print a very simple message over your browser so that you can quickly check it out. So to check it out, what we will do, we will just try to say reveal in Finder, welcome.html. Let me open it up, and you can see a very simple message called hello world is printed. Okay, so it's a very simple and straightforward technique to start working with the JavaScript. No software installation required. It's just the browser which contains all your necessary libraries to keep your JavaScript code handy. So I hope you got the clarity, and now we will talk about our next features of the JavaScript one by one.
If getting your learning started is half the battle, what if you could do that for free? Visit SkillUp by Simplilearn. Click on the link in the description to know more.
Okay everyone, so now we're going to talk about our next very important feature of the JavaScript, that is known as called working with JavaScript variables. So JavaScript variables are like a kind of typical way of how the data can be stored. Okay, so in JavaScript variable, you see like any variable, whatever we declared, we use typically var keyword, and after that the name of the keyword, or I would say the name of this variable, and followed by the data which I want to store it inside. So if I talk about JavaScript variable, so like any other programming languages like in C++ and Java, so they also have this option to store the data. So you see like here we have this option called X, Y, and Z, where I can store the values and do some necessary calculations on the top of that. So if I talk about call variables in a JavaScript, it's just like a name. It's just like a unique name where your data will get placed. So they will typically work like in a container. Now, one more important thing we need to remember about the JavaScript here, unlike typical programming languages where we have talk about strict type. A strict type, like if you define any variable, you always define it as a type of string, it is a type of byte, it is a type of boolean, whatever it is. Here in JavaScript, it does have a support of variety of different types. However, it cannot have the strict type. It is a dynamic type. That means a variable which is declared once with any type can be redeclared again without having any error. So this is something which is little different from the other programming languages. So when we say about declaring a variable in a JavaScript, we always say whenever you are declaring it or whenever you want to use it, you always must initialize with some initial values. Like if you talk about defining var x, you haven't defined any value, so you have to define minimum value like in 0. If it is an int, if it is a string, you define like a null or any other value. So you must declare it. Okay, you must initialize it before you make use out of it. Now here we talk about the JavaScript variables. Typically in JavaScript we have two different type of variables that are available. One which is known called global variable, where they can be accessed anywhere within your application. Okay, so there exactly we want to talk about. Okay, so I just want to tell you, like when we talk about called JavaScript variables, so we have a talk about global variables and it can be accessed outside of the function, okay, and anywhere else. So that's what exactly the global variables are. Local variables on the other side, they are accessible within a function and hence it cannot be accessed outside. So global variables means they can be declared outside of the function and hence they can be accessed anywhere, where the local variables can be accessed within a function itself. Now let's talk about a typical JavaScript variable program which can help you to understand how we can take that up. So here let's get started with a typical program of JavaScript variables. Now here we're going to declare another program name called var_demo.js or HTML. Okay, now here in our HTML, if I want to define the variable, I will just go back and try to declare our HTML values just the way we defined earlier. Let me redeclare it again. And here in my program, I can just define var x equal to 10. So this is a typically known as called a global variable. It is not defined anywhere in a function. Later on, we can just define a function, and function in JavaScript is declared with using function keyword. So we say function and say addition. And here within a function, we define a variable like in var y equal to 20, and we say var z equal to x plus y. Why it is happening? Because here the x is a global variable, hence it can be accessed, and y is a local variable. So this is how it is. And later on we can just write document dot write, and here we declare a variable like in what, a z. Okay, and later on you can call this function outside like an addition. So you are actually trying to call the function outside. So you will see the complete logical calculation which is written in the function will be accessed outside. Let's try to see. Now we'll try to call this. You can see now the value has been given. So this is a very simple and straightforward example of like how the variable can be declared within your application. Then a similar like in variable, the way we have declared, we also have some other options that are also available like in JavaScript operators. Like other programming languages, JavaScript also have their operators. Operators like you talk about addition, subtraction, multiplication. Okay, so such kind of operators we can use in a JavaScript itself. Okay, so you can see now this is an operator which is a plus operator where you can offer the symbol and perform any operands on this. So different type of arithmetic operators are available like in plus, minus, modulus, percentage, plus plus, minus minus. Multiple type of operators are available here. So you talk about comparison operators where you talk about called double equals, less than, not equal, greater than, less than. Different type of comparison operators are there. Logical operators, you see, talk like in and, or, not. These are the standard operators are there also. Now we talk about assignment operator, which we talk about call plus equal to, minus equal to. These different type of assignment operators are available. Ternary operators, which will tell you about a comparison. If the values are greater than that, then do this, else do that. So this is called ternary operators, where if the value is 10 is greater than 11, then it will print yes or it will print no. So this kind of ternary operators are supported. So let's go and try to develop a very simple example of operators. So here itself, I'm going to create another file name called operators demo.html, and I would like to copy the same example whichever we have developed, and we will see how it can be useful for. So I just copy this everything and pasted it here, and here I can just define the values like in x equal to 10, var y equal to 20 here. Okay, so here we'll be using this option name called function. We can define operators. Okay, and now here we can say var add equal to, we can say the value called x plus y. Now in a similar way we can say var greater equal to, now here we can say x, which is but obvious. After that we can use equal, so we can say var equal to x, okay, and then equal to y, and if it is, then have what, true, else false. So defining like in ternary operator now. So you can talk about logical operators also. So for logical operators we can use is var either or equal to, now we can say x, then y, and we can say or symbol, and here we say x is less than y. So this is basically the logical operators, and later on we can just use these conditions here. We can say add, you can call it, and later on you can just call other properties, like you can say greater, like the same, we talk about equals, and here once again either or. That's it. So here we are just calling operators outside, and let's see how it can be useful. Now I just go back here, run this, and you can see the values are given called 30, which is but obvious. We were expecting is a call addition. X is lesser than 5, true, yes, exactly it is. It is a false because but obvious, because x is not greater than, okay, because it is a ternary operator, and last which is called either or, which is logical operator, which is once again is going to give you what, the true. So this is how exactly you can make it. So this known is called what, a traditional technique of how the JavaScript operators are useful for. Okay friends, so now we're going to talk about our next feature after the operators is called JavaScript Loops. This is once again one of the very important feature of any programming language. So the JavaScript has this, that is called JavaScript Loops. So what exactly the loops are? See, the loops are basically designed to repeat or iterate some piece of code to make your code more efficient and use less number of lines. When you have some repeated steps in your program which you would like to execute it over the period of time, you always use a concept name called loops. Okay, so either they will repeat it or they will try to perform iteration to read the chunk of data in a one single or limited number of lines. So in JavaScript we have basically 4 standard type of loops are available. The first, which is called for loop, and second we have a called while loop, third which is called do while, and last which is called for in loop. So 4 different type of loops are available, which we will discuss it one by one in detail to talk about how they're different from each other. Now, here we talk about JavaScript loop into the program. Okay. Now, when it comes to this JavaScript loops, as I've told you, like they are designed to basically perform some necessary iterations. Okay. So to get this type of iteration, I would like to perform a very simple logic where I have a set of records with me in the form of array, and I would use JavaScript typical array conditions where the data can be iterated and displayed in a very simple words. Now here, let's get started with our next example here. Let me copy this first, or else let it be. I can just go and create another file name called loops demo.html. Now inside this loops.html, I will just use same HTML and body tag. Now here, once again, the same script. The first thing, whenever we talk about the looping, we always starts with the first logic called for loop now. And in for loop, first thing it starts with the for keyword, and later on we have to initialize the variable. So I'm defining the variable name called var I equal to some initial value. I'm saying 1 semicolon, and after that you have to start working with call again I is less than equal to 10. That means it will try to iterate the value until it reaches to the 10 and increment the counter by 1, and I say I plus plus. Okay, and after this we have to start the curly braces and define just document.write, and here you define the value with using I, comma, and just for going to the next line we are using BR for breaking the line so that I can display it in much more better way. So here the loop is started. Now this is the first type of loop, which is what's called for loop. In a similar way, if you want to show the while loop, what you do, let me try to bring it here, the message called for loop. In a while loop, what you do is, typically you use the same var a equal to 10 or 11, whichever value you want to take it, and you say while it reaches to a is less than 16. Okay, so the value is 16, and after that we display document.write, and here we define the value called what? A, and once again break. Okay, now this is ready, and after that we can just increment the value called A plus plus. That's it. So this is where exactly my while loop it is. Here, after displaying the value, we are just incrementing the value later on. And let's see how exactly this loop works. I'll go back to my same location and loops demo, and you can see now how this loop has been reached till 1 to 9, and here it started from 10 and reached till 15. So these are two standard ways are there in JavaScript to work with the loops. So I'm sure you are clear with how exactly the JavaScript loops are really designed for. Well, everybody, we have seen in a previous example how the JavaScript loops works. Now in our next program, we're going to talk about very special feature that is called JavaScript Functions. Since JavaScript is a typical known as called functional programming, so functions are the first class citizens in JavaScript. That means everything, whatever you develop, it is there in the form of functions only. So functions are very important aspect, which we'll be discussing it now in a very simple language. Well, when we talk about called JavaScript function, so we understand like the function is basically the group of reusable code which can be called anywhere in the program. So that means you write a kind of group of logical things together and give some name, and that name you can call it. This is known as called what? A functions. Now, typically function introduce the reusability, that brings the reusability into your program and gives the modular approach to your program. Well, we know it very well. Any programming language like in C++, Java, Scala, all programming languages offer the function because this is where exactly the functionality is offered to your application. Now, here, how basically the JavaScript functions are basically used, this we will see in our program. Okay, so as I've told you, it is a kind of grouping multiple logical calculations together and give it as a name so that we can call it anywhere else. So let's see how this JavaScript functions are useful for. So here, let's get started now with the JavaScript functions now. Here, let me close all these details. I'm going to create a new file called functions demo.html. Now here I'll start with the same thing, your HTML, your body, and here a script tag. Now let's get started. So here I would like to start working with the first variable called var x equal to 10, and we say var y equal to 20. Typical variable. Now document.write, and here we define value of x equal to comma. Here we define x, and after that we can have another value now where we can say the value of y. So we can just use the same option now with using br, and here you have to put br and say the value of y in the same line, but here the value of y equal to, well, after that we have to define y here. Okay, that's it. So this is a typical document.write. We have written it here, and later on, see, semicolon is absolutely optional, and remember JavaScript is a very case sensitive language. Now let's try first function called add. Okay, we are saying var sum equal to x plus y, and we can use the same document.write, right, and here we say addition is, and here we can define the addition which is sum. So the first functionality which we have written, like that I can call another one. Let me copy this, paste it, and here we can say subtract. Here we can define subtract x minus y, and here we can define subtract here. Okay, now you can define like that called multiply also. We can have mul, we can use multiply like that, and from there after this saying multiply by, we can say sum or mul. This is multiply. Here we can say subtract is multiply. So multiple functions you can create it, and later on you can call these functions outside. So these are the three functions you're basically calling it. Yeah, so yes, all done. Let's see how it works. Well, you can see the value is value of x equal to 10, and here we have a call addition is 30. So like that you are performing all the activities the way you want. So this is x minus y, so you are defining this subtract here. So the way the code is going to work for you. So add, subtract and multiply. three different functions gonna give you the multiple results according to you. So we can say addition is this, subtract. Okay, so let's call this function properly, and now let's see. Yeah, so you can see the values has been given. Okay, it's a very simple way of how, and here we have to also say multiply. So three different functions. So x, y, and multiply, subtract, and addition. Very simple example of like how this functions demo is gonna work for us. So now our next topic towards the JavaScript learning is JavaScript objects. So as we know it very well that JavaScript is known as called a typical object-based programming, not an object-oriented programming. So since it is an object-based programming, so you can feel some flavors of objects. So as the developer who are from C++ or the Java background, they know it very well about the object is basically having some of the properties like in methods, related properties, and some of the functionality will be get attached to this. If you are not from C++ or Java background, no problem. So we can say the objects are basically the blueprints. Okay, so here in objects, we can talk about which are the implementations we need to use it. Now here in JavaScript, we do not have a concept of classes. We talk about only objects here. Okay, so how objects are getting created and used in JavaScript, let's have a quick look. Now, as we know, like many of the high-level languages, JavaScript is also a object-based, so it may not have all those object-oriented behaviors, but some of those extent will certainly you will find inside this. So, as we know it very well, if we talk about a concept name called object, so what is an object actually? Object is something which is known as called as some real-time entity. Like anything which you can say like computer, you say about fan, you talk about car, you say about bike, anything which is related to the real time is considered as an entity for me. So here we have a called object. So now this object will certainly have some states and behavior associated. When we talk about a called state, if we take an example of car, so car will have a color, about mileage, you talk about the tire pressures and other areas. When we talk about called behaviors, the behavior like accelerate and other aspects too. Okay, so these are known as called behaviors. In a typical term, states are known as called a data which will be holding it, and the behavior will be which will be applying on those particular data. So we say about the objects, especially in Java, we have a variety of ways to create an object, but three most important ways are first, which is known as called using object literals. Okay. Second, which we talk about called using the new keyword, how we use it in a standard C++ or the Java programming. And the third, which is more special way, which is called using object constructor. We will experience all those features one by one by implementing one mini application which can give you the confidence of understanding how these objects are really useful. Friends, JavaScript has enhanced its feature in much more organized way if you use objects. Without objects, you can end up with writing a lot of additional code which will be very difficult for the users to understand. Objects are a more organized approach which users can always use it for. Okay, so let's implement a very standard way of implementing this JavaScript program. It's time for us to see the demo of how the objects are getting created. Now we're going to create the new file now in the same. So let's go and create a new file name called objects demo.html. Now here in our objects demo.html, let me go and create a HTML tags first. So let's go and create HTML and let's start with the body tag. Now here, since the default language is a JavaScript, so I'm starting with my script tag. Now within this script tag, I have to create the first way of object creation, that is called using object literal. So we can say create object using object literal. Okay, so let's get started. So first thing, we will be displaying a demo by saying document dot write, and here let's define the h3 tag, and within this h3 tag I'll show message call object little demo. Let me close this, and this double quotes I'll close it at the end. Okay, perfect. Now let's go and create the object of student. I'm saying var student. Now to create the object, remember one thing, there's a very special sign called this curly braces. So whenever we encounter this curly braces, that means we consider there is an object behind the scene. Let's say ID, and here we say 1 or any value, and next property I'm defining is called name colon, let's give the name called John, and the third property I'm giving is called class I'm saying 8. So now we have three properties of this object name called ID, name, and class. Next after that I can write document dot write, and after this I'll go and start defining the properties by saying student ID, but to get the value of this I have to say the property associated with your object. So my object name is called student and its property is called ID. So we can say student ID equal to, and here just say concatenation, and here we say student dot ID, first property associated with the concatenation, and once we would like to have another property called student name. So with this we can use the break tag br and say student name, and with this we'll be associating once again a concatenation with plus student dot name. Now with this last property which is associated with, I'll be just copying and pasting it this line, and here I'll say student class, and this is student class equal to the value which we have to give it here, that is called student dot class. So now we have total number of 3 properties are used here. So we have called student, ID, name, and class. Let's see the outcome. So now we're running this, and I can see all 3 values are printed. Very simple demo of how the object can be created with the object literal. So what we did is we created a student object with 3 properties. You can have any number of properties, no problem, but to get this property you have to say object name dot its property name, so we can retrieve all the values that way. So this is the first step of how your object literal is getting created. The second way of using this, as I've told you, that is known as called using this new keyword. So let's get started with the next thing, that is called create object using literal. Now here, in order to create the object, I just copy this line same, and I say object new keyword, object new keyword. Okay, and now to create the object we'll be using the new keyword. So we are saying var employee equal to new of object. So this is the standard way of creating this object by saying new of object, and later on whichever the values you want to associate, I'm saying employee dot id equal to 101. After that employee dot name equal to whatever name you want to give, let's say Steve. Third property we are defining is employee dot salary equal to whatever value you want to give it. So total number of 3 properties we have defined here. After that, I want to display all those values, so I can just once again say the same thing. Let me copy the same and paste it here, and I'm saying rather than student ID we can say employee ID equal to employee ID. Next we have a call employee name. Let me copy the same. So employee dot name, and last we have a call employee salary. So 3 properties we are displaying it here. So it's very simple way where you really do not have to define everything into the one line, but you can decide which are the properties you want and you can extend it as any point of time. There's another way of how the objects are getting constructed. Let's check. There you go. There's another way of how this object is getting created, but I can see this value is called undefined. Here we are saying, sorry, employee dot name. Here we have to say employee dot salary. Perfect. Let's check this out. Awesome. I can see the values have been printed. Okay. So second way of creating this object using object literal. Let's go and create a third way, so called using constructor, which we say create the JavaScript object using constructor. One of the most popular way where the users are feeling more comfortable of using the traditional way using the constructor. Okay, so I'm taking this and saying using constructor. And here using constructor we can use the same document.write. Let me have the same using constructor. Now let's try to add some properties, but this time my object name will be scientist. But to create the object we'll be using the same way like the way we have used the function way. So we say function scientist okay, and here we pass 3 parameters. I'm saying ID, name, and the last which is called branch. So here you define those number of properties under which you want to construct the object. You start this and offer by initialization. So how are you going to initialize this? With using simple call this dot id equal to id, this dot name equal to name, this dot the third property which is available called branch equal to branch. So 3 properties are associated: ID, name, and branch. After that, once this constructor is initialized with its value, we have to now use the next technique to construct the object. So how are you going to construct the object? So for this, I can just use the first property called scientist. So just copy this. I'm saying scientist1 equal to new of scientist. So this is how we create the object with using new keyword by passing the value called 2010. After that, the name of the scientist, Sheldon, and the third property we're giving some physics. Okay, so after that, let me go back and create the same here, giving the name called scientist2, and here we give the value called 3010. Username can be okay, and here we can give the value called same, or else I can just give the name called ID. Okay, any values we can give it here. So these 2 values are ready now. Finally, we have to basically display the values. So I'll be just copying the same here. So employee.id, Rather than that, we'll be giving scientist1 or scientist2, whichever value. So here, well, we have a different properties with me. ID is same. Next we have a call name, that is also fine. So the third, which is important, called branch. So like this, we are accessing those values. Let's check and identify whether it is correct. Perfect. I can see this object is created. Awesome. Now in a similar way, I just go back and create one more. So here I'm just change this to second object called 2. Well, already, let's check. There we go. So I can see all the values are displayed to me as usual, the way it was expected in my application. But yes, if you really want to have the better look, I can offer you can use a break just to make the look and feel much more better. So this break would really help. Now you can see it looks better. Okay, so we understand how these objects are getting constructed in JavaScript with this using 3 different ways. First, which we have seen, that was using literal. Second, with using new keyword, and the third with using constructor. Okay. Well, everybody, it's time to basically talk about our next feature, that is known as called working with JavaScript arrays. In a previous program, we have seen like how you can utilize the JavaScript objects in 3 different ways. It's time to experience a JavaScript arrays. Now I tell you about one thing. JavaScript comes with so many predefined objects, okay, which are so-called implicit objects. Like if I give some name like in string, we have a call boolean, we have a call math. One of the type of object which is available here, that is called arrays. So JavaScript contains one implicit object's name called arrays. So the name suggests array is designed to basically hold some of the most important aspect of having the standard features, like holding the necessary records. Now if I just show you about what the JavaScript array really does, so it says it is designed to hold the homogeneous element, okay, in a one single stack. So JavaScript array is an object which is used to store the different elements. Now, as the array behavior remains same like in other programming languages, it starts with 0 and goes till n-1. Okay, so you can contain different type of values inside your JavaScript arrays, and we understand like you can access all the values with providing the position, and you can iterate all the values with using for. So here this is called JavaScript arrays. Okay, we will see how this JavaScript object type of implicit objects can be implemented in practical. Let's go ahead and talk about practical stuff. Here we're going to create another file for this arrays. Let's go and create array demo.html. Now here in this array demo.html, I'll be once again developing HTML related stuff, but typing HTML head tag, body tag, again it's going to be very painful. If you're using VS Code editor, you're going to get plenty of plugins which can help you to reduce the repeated code again and again. So here there's an option available named called plugin. So if you click here, call extensions, and here you can search for one extension called HTML. Okay, so you will see there's option available. Like if I select for HTML, there are so many options will be available. There is one option named called HTML snippet. This HTML snippet would help you to quickly offer you some set of HTML tags without typing it again and again. So you can install it. So let's go back, and here I start with HTML. Now if you see here, there's an option called HTML5. Now the moment I say hit enter, immediately you can see by default, set of tags are available to me. Now here onwards, we will start by starting with my script tag. And now here I will say document.write array. So once again, when you can develop the array can be also used in 3 different forms. It could be used using array literals, it can be used using new keyword, and also it can be used using constructor. We'll be seeing all these 3 options one by one. So document.write, here we start with array literals, let's close this, and here onwards we will start working with another document.write. So let's get started with the data. So here I'm saying strong and within this I'm going to offer fruits. And here after this I'll be offering the break just to get to the next line, the break tag. After this I'll define my array by saying var fruits equal to apple. Second you can take call banana. Third I'm defining is called, you can say another one that is called orange. Total number of 3 fruits we have taken, and this is an array. Square bracket is designed for array. After that we want to iterate it. Very simple option. We have a call for define one variable called I equal to 0. I is less than fruits dot length, which is a property, and again I plus plus. Okay, now here after that I will start working with document.write, and here we will define fruits, provide this position. I'm saying I plus BR. That's it. So this is where exactly we have defined the set of records. Let's see in my outcome how it looks. So here in my arrays demo, now I can see the fruits. Now there's a problem here because one thing which I missed, I haven't closed the things properly. So here it has to be like that. Let's check better. So here in fruits, so these are the set of options that are available. These are additional tag which we have taken. Let's check better. So now we have got apple, banana and orange. We have iterated through the for loop and created the object of this array with using object literal. This is known as called array literal. Second option which is available to us, that is using new keyword. Okay, now here I have this document.write. Let's say array new strong. This time I'll be using employees. Okay, now here we would not be using this. Instead we'll be defining var employee equal to new of array. Okay, and after that you can initialize this by providing the position. So I'm saying employee, put the position 0, and whatever value you would like to offer, you can just say John. Okay, like this. I can copy this again and paste it many times. put the value 1, John, we can say Adam, 2, and here you can say Steve. 3 records are available to me. Here I can iterate it in the same way, but yes, we have to change the name from employee to what? This, and like that. That's it, all done. Let's check this out. Awesome. Now you can say there are a set of employees we have iterated through. Very simple and straightforward option. Third option, in a similar way, we are using constructor object. Okay, so how to go and create a constructor object? Let's see in my application. Now in a similar way, the one which we have created, let me go back and create, the same object. Let me copy the same and I'll paste it here. Now rather than saying array new, I'll use this option name called array constructor. Okay, now array constructor, and here I'll not be using this same option the way we have created earlier. Instead, we'll be using the students option. Okay, so here I'm saying students, and here in our students we can use this option here while removing those additional details, and here we have a call var students equal to new of array. Okay, and here we can define the values. Now first value I can just say call user1, once again user2, and user3. 3 users we have taken, and now we want to iterate it. So the same way, so we have a call students, and once again students. That's it, and we're all good. Let's check. There we go. Like this, you can have the another option available with the help of constructor. So like this, you can make your ideas more better and more simple how this object constructor can be created. So we have already seen so many examples earlier with regards to JavaScript, and I know like before this JavaScript, you guys have already undergone with CSS as well as the HTML based sessions. It's time to basically offer and develop one mini project which can help us to connect all the dots, like how the JavaScript, HTML and CSS work together. So by considering this fact, we have decided to develop a one mini project known as called a quiz app. So this would be a very major step towards understanding how this UI things work together to develop something very awesome. So to develop some quiz application, we need some standard project structure. Like as you can see right now, we have created already project as a folder in which we have a one image. This image is just a basic image which we have downloaded. So this is giving you kind of a typical look and feel, like this is a one pen and there's a one background image. Nothing special about this. Now here I'm going to create some new folders in order to create our applications. The first file which I'm going to create it inside this, that is called index.html. I'll also create new folder name called CSS. Okay, so this would be holding all our CSS related stuff, and we also create one more folder here that is known as called JS, which will contain all my JavaScript related libraries. So I'll start with my template first, which is called index.html, and here you will see how we start developing a user interface first, and later on we can offer you all different type of styling. So as I said, I'll be using the same HTML tags, so it is same as it is. So we'll start working with our body tag now. So here in my body, I will offer the first thing called div tag. We say div and that's it. I do not have any CSS class written, so I'm just leaving it as a blank. And within this div, I'll be using one more tag that is called header. Now, within this header, I'm writing my first h1 tag by saying the quiz. Later on, I'll use one more tag called paragraph tag, where I can say brace yourself. Brace yourself. Okay. Now, here the header section closed. After that, we can use section. Just understand, these are all HTML5 semantics. Sections, headers, they're all basically HTML5 semantics. Under this, we are using div. We can define one ID here equal to results. Okay. Now, div ID equal to results. After that, I'm going to develop one form. Let's develop a form here. Now, within my form, we'll be having some set of details. So I'm saying h3 tag, where I'm offering the first question. Okay, let me try to, first question, and say in which HTML element do we put JavaScript code. So this is my first question. I have it. Okay. Now here we'll be having some radio buttons, which I'll be offering it now. So here we say input type equal to radio. Okay, we can offer name equal to Q1. We can give the any name, but I'm just giving the name called Q1. Okay, and value equal to answer we can give called A, or else I can give any answer, and here we say ID equal to Q1A. Q1A, that is an ID for this. Okay, so here we are closing this. Okay, so this would be answer A. Okay, and that's it. So after this, we can offer you the greater than and less than symbol. So in this, if you want to offer the greater than less than symbol, you know there is an option available named called and. Sorry, this and LT, which is called less than. Here we say JS and JT, which is now called greater than, and now break. Let's see how it really looks like in. So I just go to my index.html file and say reveal in Finder. Okay, so it looks like this. JavaScript. Okay, so this is an opening and closing tag. So here I can go and create few more. Like this we have, I can create 2 more or 4, whatever number of outcome you're expecting. So let's copy and paste it here. I will be giving 4 options: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, Q1 answer we can change the value to B. Here we change to C, and here we change to D. Now here we call Q1 A. We can say Q1 B, Q1 C, Q1 D. So the options which we can give, that is called A, B, C, and D. 4 options we have taken it up. Okay. Now the first option we have taken called JS. Second option which we can take is now called script. The third option I can offer you rather than script, that is called body. And the third I can offer is link. Okay, total number of 4 options. So my first will be ready. Let's see. Awesome. It looks better now. Okay. A, B, C, D, 4 options we have taken. Now in a similar way, we can go back and create few new. So I would not be typing it again and again. Instead, just to save time, we will just copy this the same, because form we really don't need to copy. Okay, so let me select this and I'll paste few more. So here, this is our first one. Let me go and create another one. So here it is the second question, and the question will be, which HTML attribute is used to reference an external JavaScript file. Okay, now here we can offer multiple values as usual. So we have a call Q1, we can say Q2, okay. So we have a call value, the one which you've given, A, B, C, D. So I don't think so that you need to change the value here. We can just say B here, A, B, C, D, like that. So same A, B, C, D. So here, well, I don't say that it has to be I can say 1. I think it misplaced by using I. Let me change to 2 now. 2. Okay, now here I have to offer the values. What are the values will be? Now here I'll not be using less than and greater than symbols. Instead, I'll offer the very straightforward answer, that is called SRC. And the second option, I can take maybe REL. Then the third will be type, and the fourth option which we are selecting is called href. Okay, that's it. So let's check whether it is used properly. Awesome. So it's like that. So I can keep on creating new questions as per my own requirement. So you can go ahead, but I may be having certain conditions. So let's go back and create 2 more. I want minimum 4 questions to be taken. So I just copy this again and paste it. So 1, 2. Now let's take the third question now. I will say now the next value. How would you write hello in an alert box? Very simple question. So it will be the same option. We will be changing to Q3. ABCD change to, okay. So the values we have to basically select. So we can say the first option, any values we can say, let's say MSG, and here hello. This is the first way of doing this. Second, we can use, but rather than using MSG, I can say alert box hello, or else I can use this option in called document.write. .write, and the fourth option I can take it here is your alert. Okay, these are the values. Let's check if it is implemented properly. Great. So it is taken well. Here A, B, C, D, 4 values are given. Now the last option, which I can take it for value number 4. Here I will say next call JavaScript is directly related to the Java programming. Okay, so the question is like JavaScript is directly related to the Java programming language. So here I'll be giving true or false value. Okay, so input able to radio, removing these last two. So this will be the true and false value. So for this, I make sure that the value I keep it is called Q4 ID equal to Q4A, Q4B, and the value I can take it is true and false. That's it. And here after that, once the values have been taken, I can just use the break tag and be having the button also. We can say input type equal to submit, and we can give the value equal to submit answers. Okay, so our HTML page is ready. Let's verify. Great. So my quiz is almost ready. My HTML page is all set. Now it's time for us to go back and format it in much more better way. Okay. Well, our next feature will be to associate JavaScript validations while submitting the form. So how to start working with? So the first thing is, in order to work on a JavaScript, we have to create a new file under this JS. I'm going to create a new file name called script.js. New file script.js. Okay, that's a new file. We're going to create it now, and in this script.js we will actually write a code to validate each and every line of code, the one which we expect. So when the user will submit the answer, we need to make sure that total number of questions are 4, and the score we want to calculate by picking up individual values. So let's see here. So we say function and submit answer. Okay, now here this is my typical function. So let's start with the first value called var total equal to 4. These are my total number of questions which are available. Next, var score equal to 0. Okay, initial value for the score will be 0. Now we have to collect the input values from the client. So we should have some form tag, and form should have some name, because without that I really can't collect the values. So for what we will do is go to the index.html file, and this form you provide some name. So I'm saying name equal to quiz form, and here we say on submit equal to the function which you've written. I'm saying return. The function name is called submit answers. Quiz form on submit equal to return submit answers. Well, this is the first thing, and here I have a submit answers, which is a function for me. Now we have to start picking up the values from the text boxes. So how are we going to pick it up? So for this, within this function, we have to say var q1, which is the first question, equal to document.forms. Okay, that is the way how the DOM will get manipulated. Here, the name which is available to us called quiz form. So let's see the name. It is a quiz form. So we are taking quiz form here. Okay, and within this quiz form, we are taking our first property called q1. We have to pick up the value. We say dot value. Okay, so we'll be using the first value right now here. So let's see whether I'm getting it something or not in my application. So here I'm saying alert, welcome, and say false. Okay, so this would be my first. In this index.html file, I'll be having some script tag on which this file is required to be get loaded. So what I will do is, under my head tag, I'm including this by saying a script equal to the name of the file. So under the JS, call script.js. Okay, so that is the file name for us. So here, so something we need to check what is there in inspect. So you can see it is saying welcome, so working perfectly fine. Answers welcome, that means the function is getting called. So that is a good sign for my code. So I'm saying alert welcome, that's perfectly fine. So now I just comment this alert for a time being and continue with my development. So like this, the way we have expected this, I'll copy this and paste it 4 times. Q2, Q3, Q4, that's Q2, Q3, Q4. So we are taking all the values, and later on we'll be iterating all by saying for I equal to 1, then I is less than, I can say total, okay, the value which we have taken, and I plus plus is a form. Now it is an array now. Sorry, this is a typical value we are taking and iterated all through. Finally, if we'll be using eval to evaluate the logic here. So eval is a function under which you can perform some expressions inside this. So here we will take q and we are saying plus I, okay, and we are calculating it null. We are checking the value equal to null, or we are saying once again the same eval, copy this line, okay, I pasted it here, and now we'll be validating for what? Double equal to blank, means there is either there is no value, okay, or else the value is null. So in this case we have to just start and say alert and give the value by saying you haven't selected anything for question, but which question? This we will offer it here by saying plus and I and exclamatory mark. Okay, very simple logic we are associating it. Yeah, so this is the logic which we have said, like either this or that happened. So you should write the logic. So if equal to null, something like that, will be performing the calculations on the top of that. So here we just remove this additional, and that's it. Okay, and here we return false. Yeah, so this is my first code which we have written. So I have to select the values and we need to basically perform the calculations on the top of this. So you see you haven't selected anything for question 1. So if I select it, now I say you haven't selected anything for question 2. So this is how exactly it is trying to manipulate the values one by one. So this part is very nice. Finally, we have to set the correct answers in an array. What is my correct answer? Okay, so we are saying var answers equal to, now we put the values, correct values. So we can say the B, and then we can say A, then we can say the next value which is available to us, that is a D, and the last one which is B, because we know very well about those correct answers. Okay, so if you see this index.html file, so quiz form JavaScript code, so we know it very well, it goes under the script tag, so the answer would be but obvious B. So like that we have defined the correct answers in my current array. Later on, let's check the correct answers. So we say for, here we say I equal to 1, then I less than equal to total, then we are selecting I plus plus. Okay, and then we talk about this eval. We are saying if, once again, eval perform the same q plus 1 answers, put the position I minus 1. Then what? Then in that case we can say score plus plus. We are incrementing the score of the user. That's how we are taking that. So this is where exactly you're offering it. And third, we have to offer the results to the user to check whether, like, hey, your results is correct or incorrect. So we say var results or result equal to document dot get element by id. Here we have to offer the results. So results will be available here. So this is my id already defined. So here I say results, and after getting this value, just say result dot inner HTML equal to, now here we define the value by saying h3. Let's try to put it in a double quotes. Okay, h3, and here we say you scored. Now inside this we can pass the span tag just to make it more better look. Okay, and after that we will be saying plus keyword, and here we say score plus, after that score plus, we say once again span tag. Let me close this span tag, and we say out of, once again span, once again plus, and here we say total plus, and here the last but not least, your span tag will close here. Okay, that's the plan of your code. So here after this total plus, we will use this span tag is getting closed like this. Okay, so this is the correct value we'll be using it, and later on we can say alert use code and plus keyword the score value whichever we have it. Okay, plus out of and once again plus total and return false. Perfect. So this is where exactly my application is. Let's check. Well, submit answer. You haven't submit. So I'm saying B, C, any random value we are selecting it. It's a use code 2 out of 4. Great. So your validation is working perfectly fine. And as per the logic, if I select the correct one, which is called B, A, D and B, B, A, D and B, I say use code 2 out of 4. So we need to check where we have to basically go back and try to fix the error. Okay, so we have this correct value to be get implemented. Okay, so this is somewhere the tweak you can do that, but you understood about the flow of the code, how this JavaScript code has been written. In our previous project, we have applied our JavaScript as well as the associate HTML, but our next system would be how to beautify them. And to beautify them, we are dependent on CSS. So under the CSS, you have to create a new file and give the name called style.css. And in this style.css, we have to first pick up the image, the one which we want, and that I will apply. So I just say body, and after this body, we will say background image. And which background image I'm selecting? I'm saying URL, and in this URL, I'm taking // under this img, and the file name is called img2.jpg. So this image we are using it right now, and what I will do is this index.html file will refer this CSS. So to apply this CSS, I'll just go here and I say link rel equal to style sheet and followed by href equal to the location css/style.css, and let's check if it is used. Awesome, I can see this appears, but we have to apply some other areas too, because this looks pretty much odd, because the look and feel may not look as great as I always look forward for, because you know this, it is highlighting all the values, but it is overloading, and also this image things also we have to fix that up. Okay, so for this I'll go to my style.css and attach some colors also, like background color. So I'm using this anything, let's say hash okay. So it's just first white color we are using it, and after that we use height. In this height we are using 700 pixel. After that background position, this background position we are using center. After that we are using this called background repeat. We do not want to repeat it because of the image size is small, it will repeat it again and again. And background cover, okay, background size which we want to say cover. Okay, so this selection we're giving it, and the color which we are suggesting it is basically hash, okay, the gray color. And after that font family, in this font family we can say Arial and have it color sensitive. These are the three standard we use it, and say font size that we can use it 14 pixels. Well, let's check, is there any change? Okay, now you can see it is little aligned comparatively. And after that you can go ahead and define the container. I didn't define any kind of, the sections and the containers, but certainly I can whenever I try to implement the logic. Okay, so you need to have some set of, the classes which you can apply. So what I try to do is, first of all, let me try to offer these scripts, sorry, for CSS, and later on I can apply the other things too. Okay, so here I say for container, this container we are saying width is giving call 60%, and after that I'm giving call background. This background I'm giving some initial value like 199, and with this I can say FDB. Okay, so the color you can see it is how it is taking this sea green color or blue color, and I say margin 20 pixels auto. Okay, and the next overflow, this overflow we're giving call auto. Next we have a call padding. This padding I can give 25 pixels. That depends on which are the classes or CSS you are using it. So in index.html file, if you want, you can define your own types, the one which you look forward for. So here in the body, you see here that's called body. Within this body, I can define one div class. So there's a div, I say class equal to paper. Now I can apply any CSS class on the top of that. Okay, but this I'll be doing it little later on. So the first CSS class I have it called paper, and towards this paper I can define the sections, headers, footer, or whatever the results are. Okay, so this paper which we have it, we have to apply some of the more advanced CSS in my code. So this is my CSS, and I can apply some of the paper by saying dot paper. I can just say width, width I can say 60%, and then we can say margin. Margin we can offer 25 pixels. Auto padding, this I can offer 25 pixels again. Then we can say background. So this background I can just give the white. And later on padding, we can just say 30 pixels. And the last call position relative. Now you see this how beautifully this application looks like. Okay, so like this you can create some awesome effects to your code by telling them which kind of behavior you want when. Okay, so like this you can apply as many CSS as you want. So before or after, if you want, you can apply and make your ideas more better. So color combinations you were expecting, that also you can apply it just the way you define it here. We can define some other options like in dot paper, and here you can say once again dot paper, and now pseudocode I can offer before, and here dot paper pseudocode we will call after. Now I can offer this option called box hyphen shadow. What box shadow we are saying? 1 pixel, 1 pixel, 1 pixel. Okay, and color RGBA, and you can define the color. I'm saying 0, 0, 0, 0 slash the opacity, I'm saying 0.25, RGBA threshold alpha, and border 1 pixel, solid with the value say hash. Let's check. There you go. So you can find the marginal difference which is coming up, okay, which you can utilize it as it is. So guys, your application is all set. So this is the quiz application we have developed and identify how your code can work together with the help of CSS, JavaScript and HTML. Okay, hope you've enjoyed the session and loved the way how the things have been developed from the scratch. Okay, thank you.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.